Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Janda, and please welcome to our Operation Freedom platform, WeThePeopleProcessing.com. You know, are you tired of being threatened to be canceled just because you have a company focused on liberty and freedom? Well, worry no more, folks. WeThePeopleProcessing.com is your go-to merchant services, freedom-based company to provide business service payment solutions. We the People Processing provides their clients a cancel culture-free platform which is domestically based. They provide competitive rates, no contracts with next-day funding, a fully vetted and like-minded financial infrastructure, and full support for integrations, implementation, and e-commerce efforts. Bottom line, WeThePeopleProcessing.com focuses on defending your company's free market growth, values, and future. Check them out at www.WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Once you're on the site, enter in password Operation Freedom or call 855-499-2024. That's WeThePeopleProcessing.com. Then, when on the website, enter Operation Freedom as your password or call 855-499-2024. We're here every Sunday for you from 2 to 5 Eastern. But as you know, it does not start and stop on Sundays from 2 to 5 Eastern. We are always on call for you 24/7 at davejanda.com. On davejanda.com, we have extra shows, extra content, extra videos, extra audios, extra guests, extra analysis, all present 24/7 to enhance your freedoms and your liberties. That site, davejanda.com, is a fan favorite amongst the freedom-loving population, but it's despised by the deep state. Why? Because the deep state wants you misinformed, disinformed, completely uninformed, which then makes you an easier target for their freedom-stripping goals and agenda. Our goal at davejanda.com is to keep you ahead of the curve that the globalists have constructed that ends in a brick wall of the smashing of your freedoms and liberties. Every week in our operating room, folks, we dissect current events that are impacting you, your family, your business, our community, and our country. And we bring to our operating room information and guests the bought-off, lamestream fake media either ignores because it doesn't fit into their preconceived, politically correct, bought-off agenda, or because, folks, they're petrified. They are petrified of what might happen if they actually tell you what you need to know. This show, folks, is about your freedom, your liberty, and your future. Today is a very special Memorial Day show for our listening audience. This show is focused on your freedoms on this wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Now, on Memorial Day, as the 4th of July, as Labor Day, Wham Talk 1600 studios are closed. So Derek and I have sauntered into Wham Talk 1600 studios. And what we've done is that we've commandeered the microphones, and we're going to present a different show for you today. Well, our first segment's a news segment, and then the remainder of the show are our best ofs. We have Dr. Michael Rechtenwald talking about the Great Reset. We have Alex Newman speaking about the totalitarian agenda exposed. Sarah Westall talking about, well, the current globalist genocide program being implemented around the world. It's a two-part segment with Sarah today. And then I conclude the show with a segment on the big club and the war racket. A club that really none of us are in. a club run by the globalists. And let's face it, Memorial Day is not a day that the globalists celebrate. You see, folks, all of us, the freedom-loving, patriotic public, celebrate Memorial Day, and we honor those who served, who sacrificed, and in some cases paid the ultimate price for preservation of our constitutional republic. Underline the words constitutional republic. Yeah, constitutional republic. And one of the pillars of our constitutional republic that those patriots fought and sacrificed for was the right of free speech, granted to all of us by our Maker, God, and reinforced by the Constitution. You see, this is why the syndicate attacks our faith, why the syndicate attacks the Constitution, why the syndicate will never recognize the sacrifice of all those who have come before us, who served and sacrificed to preserve our constitutional republic. Let's go back to the founding of this country. Benjamin Franklin, quote, "Whoever would overthrow the liberty of a nation must begin by subduing the freeness of speech." End quote. The freeness of speech. You see, that is what this is all about. They attack freedom of speech because it's one of the pillars of our constitutional republic. It's what the globalists fear most, freedom of speech, because with freedom of speech comes facts, truth, data, and science, all of which are in direct opposition to the globalists' freedom-stripping agenda. Jonathan Turley, who is a George Washington University law professor, not exactly a conservative, although he did testify on President Trump's behalf in his goat rodeo impeachment hearing. Jonathan Turley has been surveying the free speech landscape. And here is what he recently said. Biden is arguably the most anti-free speech president since John Adams. Ooh, right. This from Breitbart. Jonathan Turley reacted to the Department of Homeland Security's appointment of Nina Jankowicz to run its so-called Disinformation Governance Board. Turley said the Biden administration's tabbing, quote, one of the most outspoken critics of free speech, end quote, to police what is deemed disinformation was telling. Turley then argued that Joe Biden was, quote, arguably the most anti-free speech president since John Adams. Now, you might be saying, well, that disinformation board, that was, well, even the people in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor were like, well, we're not quite so sure about this disinformation board. It seems awfully Nazi-esque, Stalin-esque, Mao-esque. Yeah. Well, you might be saying, well, that disinformation board was paused. Was paused. It's not in existence. Oh! Hold on now. Hold on. It was paused. Now, let me tell you something. Every time they tell you they're going to do something, the globalists, what they do is they rearrange the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. They don't throw the chairs off the Titanic. No. So they got caught. And their internal polling, as I understand it, showed that they were getting annihilated in public opinion on this disinformation board. And this character, Nina Jankowicz, who, by the way, worked with Zelensky. Harley Schlanger, last week's show, pointed out this Nina Jankowicz from the disinformation board that Biden appointed. Nina Jankowicz was working in collusion with Zelensky to get him elected, and also actually was networking with the Nazis, the Azov battalion, when she was helping Zelensky. And needless to say, this was starting to this information was starting to leak out, not from the bought off lamestream fake media tentacle of the deep state, but from independent media sources such as this platform. And they realized that their downside was quite high at this point with this disinformation board, so they paused it. Read pause as, we're going to bring it back when people aren't looking, when we create another diversion. Right? We know they haven't given up on this disinformation board because Psaki, now with MSNBC, the former propagandist for the Biden White House, Psaki says that Biden will continue to call Americans who do not support him, quote, extremists, end quote. This was an answer to when Biden had proclaimed that, quote, MAGA is the most extreme political organization, end quote, in history. Oh, well, okay. Extremist or most extreme wow. But it's interesting. When they formed this disinformation board, a number of patriots said, "Okay, you want to play this game? We're going to play this game." The Attorney General of Missouri, Eric Schmidt, stepped up. And Missouri and the Attorney General of Louisiana filed suit, actually, against Joe Biden, Jen Psaki, Fauci, and other top-ranking officials for allegedly colluding with social media companies to suppress freedom of speech under the guise of combating, quote, misinformation, end quote, and disinformation. You see, this is what panics the deep state. That when their agenda is exposed, and then their agenda is then addressed, such as with lawsuits, they panic. And they usually cut and run. You see, the deep state is not courageous. The deep state are a bunch of cowards. And the single most effective way of dealing with the deep state is not hiding from them, not placating them, but exposing them. And then, legally, confronting them. They can't stand that. Or, another way of dealing with them, as Elon Musk has shown, is take some of their marbles. Oh, they don't like that. No, they panic. Steve Watson from Summit News recently put an article out. Panicked CNN guest wonders, quote, how we're going to control the channels of communications in this country, end quote. A CNN talking head declared that if Elon Musk actually follows through and buys Twitter, the platform will have to be government regulated, to prevent discourse being open and free and not subject to establishment-controlled censorship. While discussing the Musk takeover on CNN, this media analyst and expert, David Zarawick, proclaimed that Musk is, quote, dangerous, end quote, and shouldn't be allowed to restore free speech on the platform. You see, that is what panics them. When they cannot control the narrative. When their misinformation, disinformation, is blocked from getting out. Elon Musk addressed this. Quote, this is Musk now, quote, "Whoever thought owning the libs would be cheap never tried to acquire a social media company," end quote. But you see, folks, we should not forget about this disinformation governance board that Biden and Harris and all the totalitarian thugs in that administration tried to push off. Now, let's face it. Biden and Harris are low-level puppets. One of their puppeteers, or a couple of their puppeteers, are Obama, Susan Rice, and Valerie Jarrett. But these are not the ultimate puppeteers. Obama and the Bushes and the Clintons and the Romneys and the Pelosi's and the McConnells and the Ryans and the 99.9% of people in Washington, D.C., they're not the top of the pyramid. They want you to think they are. Neither is George Soros or Klaus Schwab. No. They're middle-level puppets. Further up the food chain are the banking families. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Lazards, the Pinkuses, the Warburgs, the Lowe's, the Schiffs. These are all the upper end of the pyramid that call the shots. This disinformation board didn't start with Obama. Oh, yeah, he helped get it in place, being the puppeteer of Biden and Harris, but no. This came from above Soros and Schwab. This came from above the Bank of International Settlements, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the World Economic. It came above that. It came from the banking families. See, because the last thing they want is to become exposed. They want you to remember the Schwabs and the Soroses and the Obamas, all their little puppets, vermin puppets. You see, because when this all starts to break apart, they don't want you pointing the finger at them. And the very top of the pyramid, every time I talk about this, I get heat. And I'm the only one who I'm aware of in the alternative media that even speaks about the very top of the food chain, which is a family called the Paysur family. Oh, they don't want you to hear that name. Paysur. You see, they hide in the shadows like cockroaches. And they have all their other puppet vermin carrying out their orders, like the disinformation board. And now they want you to think that it's buried, it's gone, and that don't even... No. You cannot forget about it because they're going to bring it back. Look, when I was doing healthcare policy, and I was working with Senator Robert Dole, the then Senate Majority Leader, and with his efforts, and he led the charge on this, undermined Hillary care. Everybody was, woohoo, party, oh yeah, that. And I was there saying, look, no, they're going to come back with something else, and it's going to be worse than Hillary care. Oh, Dave, you don't enjoy the win. You don't know, Dave, that, oh yeah. And what they came back with was worse. Hillary care was bad enough, okay? Obamacare was worse. Yeah. So you cannot forget, and you must hold them accountable for what they tried to do on this attack on free speech with their Department of Homeland Security creating the Disinformation Governance Board. The new entity was to focus on misinformation related to Homeland Security. Oh, yeah. But we also can't forget what, even before the board met, what they were putting into place. From Summit News, Biden disinformation czar, this Nina Jankowicz, demanded power to edit other people's tweets. Biden disinformation czar Nina Jankowicz demanded that, quote, trustworthy, verified people, end quote, like her be given the power to edit other people's tweets, making Twitter more like, if you will, Wikipedia. The head of Biden's Ministry of Truth previously compared free speech to fairy dust. This is from Summit News again. The head of what has been dubbed Biden's now paused Ministry of Truth, the Disinformation Governance Board, previously compared free speech to fairy dust during testimony about social media censorship in front of the UK Parliament, hinting that she doesn't believe free speech should even exist. And to show you what one of their first targets, was going to be, and frankly still is, though you're just going to find a different avenue, because this did not play out well. From Bill Pan from the Epoch Times. Biden's Ministry of Truth are parents concerned about critical race theory are, quote, disinformers, unquote. The Biden administration's disinformation chief, who was about to take the reins of power, says that parents who are upset about critical race theory making its way into public school classrooms are, quote, disinformers who, quote, weaponize the issue for profit. Now, wait, for profit? Let's not forget that Merrick Garland, the current attorney general in the Biden administration, his son has made millions selling materials on critical race theory to schools and education facilities around our country. Yeah, there's a for-profit for you. Right. You see, they now want you to forget of what they tried to do to your freedom of speech. And frankly, if it were not for the independent media, it would have happened. You see, folks, they want every one of your amendments. But the two they really, really despise, that the deep state despises, is your freedom of speech and your Second Amendment rights. I believe if it were not for those two amendments and our founding fathers creating those two amendments, we would look more like Sri Lanka does today, a burning hell. We would look much like a good part of the world does, with freedoms and liberties evaporating by the second.